and her current boyfriend, which basically would have established in a very concrete way the motive for the crime. But, you know, everything that she puts out is going to come right back to bite her. And it's
a remote motive, though. I mean, you know, look, you opened this up with asking Sadie about, you know, what the state's case was. It's not a slam dunk, because if she just had a coherent defense, you'd say that that state has nothing here. They can't prove how the murder happened. They can't prove what the cause of they'd have nothing. If you had somebody on the stand, you could believe this is an acquittal.
Okay, on that note, I have to take a quick break, but we're going to ask our viewers what they think about this. Is this a popularity contest? Do you think that people are already assuming that Caylee did it just because they don't like her? Is there enough evidence to convict her? We're going to be back with some of your thoughts on this heartbreaking case right after this. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Lynn Doyle. This is It's Your Call, and we are talking about one of the hottest legal cases in the country right now. That is the murder trial against Caylee Anthony. You'll recall that she is the young woman who is accused of murdering her little 2-year-old daughter, Caylee. Here's what we ask you. What do you think happened to Caylee, and what should happen to Caylee? And here are some of your responses. Frances gets right to the point. She says there is no doubt in her mind that Caylee Anthony is a cold-blooded killer. She lies about everything, and she thinks that she should see the death penalty. Bunny feels that also she's told too many lies and she's lived too many lies. She probably doesn't even know where the lies end and the truth begins. If it was an accident, why cover it up? Caylee had no fighting chance and looked to her mother to take care and protect her. A lot of people will say that she did not do those two things. And that's one thing we want to talk about, is the lies that have been told. First, when the child was missing, and then after 31 days when she admitted that she was gone, and then what happened to her and who had her. The lies just build and build and build. Is there any chance that this woman can establish credibility now?
No, there's a charge that every lawyer knows to the jury. False in one, false in all. This jury will get that charge. Absolutely. That if they think she lied about one thing, they may infer she's lied about everything. That is what shoots her. Everybody smells the case, and I don't mean the car, right? What's the state's evidence? The smell in the car. Is hurting the defense the most? Not the smell in the car, the smell of the stench of her lying. Everybody smells this case.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and make one of my predictions, and that is, in the middle of this trial, the defense will change, and this judge will let them change it. Normally speaking, you have to plead a mental infirmity defense before trial. You have to put the government on notice that this is what your defense is going to be, so that they could have your client examined, so that they could get their own experts to rebut that defense. In this particular case, because the death penalty is involved, and because of some of the rulings that this judge has made already, I think they're going to change gears and be allowed to do it, because this defense is pitiful.
And where the prosecution is going to have a problem with the case is the smell of the car. That is really junk science, and the judge may well preclude the state from making that argument, because who's to say it was a dead body and not a raccoon or a cat or something, that other animal.
Any smart judge will preclude that, because they don't need it. Because they don't need it.
I think they've let the testimony in. It's lay testimony, but there was 2 witnesses that I think testified as to what it was, and one was the tow truck driver who said that he had he smelled it, and someone else. It may be the mom, and
it was the mom, Jeff.
Who used to be a nurse, and she went to the morgue when she was a nursing
But
student.
the thing is it's the 911 call where the mother is quoted as saying it smells like there's been a damn dead body in the car. That, I think, goes to the heart of any woman sitting on that jury, because you just hear her emotion and you think she's telling the truth.
And it's spontaneous, and it has the ring of sincerity and truth about it. But from a forensic point of view, in other words, you can testify, to me it smells like a dead body, but in establishing the science of it, I don't know.
We know that there are 2 ways to prove any fact. Direct evidence, I saw it snowing last night. Got up at 3 in the morning, I saw the snow. Circumstantial evidence, I went to bed at 8 o'clock, no snow on the ground. I woke up 8 o'clock in the morning, snow on the ground. They're both as equally satisfying. I'm not so sure this circumstantial evidence rises to that, but everybody watching this case feels she's guilty. It couldn't possibly be the truth.
But on the other hand, Jeff, the court will charge, you must decide this case on the facts, free of sympathy, bias, and prejudice. We all know that charge, and that may, I don't know.
You got a dead body, and you got a mother who forgot she was a mother.
Hey, I hear you.
You're not going to get a very sympathetic
you
jury.
don't have
I don't
to
think you're going to
convince
get the death penalty.
You need 12 people in the jury who hate kids and think they should all be disposed of.
You do not have to convince me.
Okay, I want to get back to your prediction that the defense will change.
Yes.
Would you, if you were the defense attorney in charge of this case or put in charge of this case, how would you now try to at least maybe get the jury to waver, to see some sympathy with this woman, to get that
honestly,
guilty plea out of their heads?
If I were to go in the middle of the trial and take over the case, I would do whatever is necessary to change it to mental infirmity. If the judge won't let me do it, I would just do it in front of the jury and suffer whatever contempt you have to suffer because you're saving somebody's life. It might be your last case, but every case might be your last case. And you just have to convince the jury that this is a crazy girl who convinced a not so distant lawyer to go along with this defense. They're all nuts. She's crazy, and you got to get some sort of craziness in there to confuse the issue and hope for a hung jury and start with the mental infirmity defense the next case.
She can build on the sexual assault. That's part of it. You know, the victims of sexual assault often lose that line between right and wrong because it's blurred when they're abused as a child as to what the boundaries are and what's right and what's wrong. She could use that in terms of Chuck's mental disease defense, although I think they need a new lawyer for the judge to even consider allowing them to change horses, in midstream. But that's the way you do it. You get sympathy and say, the reason I'm this way is because I was abused, and that's why I covered it up. And you get some sympathy and you walk out with a reasonable sentence, from the jury, some kind of nullification of the murder charge.
And by the way, you're smarter than your client. And hopefully you're smarter than your client. If your client won't let you go with a mental infirmity defense because you can't admit to the world that you killed your child, you ignore your client. You ignore your client and you go ahead with the mental infirmity defense and you tell the jury, she's not letting me do this, but this is the deal. Here's the story.
That's harder.
It is harder. And the thing is, there are a lot of defendants that we've talked about around this panel over the years that think that they can beat the system, whether they're, a psychopath or a pathological liar or a sociopath. I mean, how many times did we sit here and talk about Scott Peterson? Sure. He thought he was beating that system, that he was never going to get convicted of murdering his wife Lacey and their son Connor, and yet here he sits on death row. Do you think that she's showing signs, exhibiting signs that she thinks she's above all of this, or that she can do it? No, I think that she's not only a first-degree liar, I think she's also as dumb as wood, and that's an insult to Wood, to think that people would actually believe her story. Well, my child's missing over here, did
Chuck,
this and did this.
The problem is she doesn't even have to open her mouth.
Right.
The tapes of her clubbing, the tapes of her going to Target in the 31-day period that the child is missing, I think sends a very extraordinary message to the jury that this woman is callous, she is cold.
Could be cold and calculating, could be. But it could also be, how does a crazy person act?
Well, that's exactly
right. How does someone who's scrambled in the brains act?
Look,
but that's not the defense today.
That's exactly right.
You can't say it.
That's exactly right.
You have to look, every juror knows in their heart what a liar is and how people lie and what they do. Liars look for openings. There's an opening. They don't know that about me. They don't know this. I can say that and get away with it. And that's what she does all the time. Whenever she sees a hole, guess what? This whole defense was them looking at it and saying, what can I get away with? I can get away with saying it was accidental because they can't really prove that it wasn't. I could say it was my father because they can't prove that it wasn't. Jurors will know that.
Okay, so I'm going to ask our audience as we take this next break, do you think that the evidence against Casey Anthony is circumstantial? You don't see a lot of the DNA coming in. You don't have a lot of that kind of hard physical evidence. Or do you think that people just believe she's a liar and as such she must have committed this murder? And if you do think she committed it and will be found guilty, is this a case that screams for the death penalty? Tell us what you think. We'll find out what these guys think on the other side. Stay with us. It's Your Call continues right after this.